This is a Marshall Enterprises presentation. Greetings and salutations and grand rising to everyone. I have a very big topic today to present to you. It's long overdue and it could be controversial because a lot of people is spending a lot of money attempting to complete this process, to engage in this process. And sadly, they're not seeing the remedy as a result, or it's an endless loop of paperwork that is very confusing. And the question is it necessary? So today we're going to talk about status correction. Status correction. I'm going to share my screen so we can get this going, because this is going to be an extensive conversation today. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I need to take you first. Let me move this back. Let me take you back, or take you to a document. Okay, so this is a document from Understanding Contract Law. This is the steps outline from Understanding Contract Law. This is their information here, understandcontractlawandyouvin.com. And this is pretty much an outline. It's not a complete outline. I have not taken their course. I have only acquired this probably through their website, or maybe through someone's presenting this in one of the many different groups I'm in on Facebook. So this is an outline, again, of the steps that they are going to guide you through and give you understanding of what it is, what you're doing in the process. And this is a lot of steps. And what they charge for it is what they charge for it. You know, workman is worthy of their hire. I'm not going to go into, is it too much? Is it too little? Da, 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 da. I'm going to show you this again. And you can pause the video and you can go through this yourself and see if this is some of the stuff that you've done already, if this is some of the stuff that you are working on now, etc. Right? This is Understanding Contract Law and youvin.com. All right. So purpose of this video today is to go through some things with you and to break down what I will say is my interpretation, my perception of this process, because you would first have to go into what is status. So let's go there. What is status? That's person. This is status. This is the lawdictionary.org, second edition. It's an online version. So if you go to the lawdictionary.org, it'll automatically take you to this second edition of Black's Law Dictionary. Now, what is status? The status of a person is his legal position or condition. Thus, when we say that the status of a woman after decree nisi for the dissolution of a marriage, that would be divorce decree, with her husband has been made, but before it has been made absolute, is that of a married woman. We mean that she has the same legal rights, liabilities, and disabilities as an ordinary married woman. The term is chiefly applied to persons under disability or persons who have some peculiar condition which prevents the general law from applying to them in the same way as it does to an ordinary person. This is where it can be found. Barney v. Tutlet, 138, Massachusetts, 108. De la Montaña versus De la Montaña, 112, California, 115, 44, PAC, 345, 32, LR. I'm going to read all of those. There are certain rights and duties with certain capacities and incapacities to take rights and incur duties by which persons, as subjects of law, are variously determined to certain classes. The rights, duties, capacities, or incapacities which determine a given person to any of these classes constitutes a condition or status with which the person is invested. You may have to read that a few times to understand what it said and what it's saying. This is status. Before the video is over, or perhaps in the description below, I'll add additional definitions of status. So now, if this is the status, meaning the status of a person in his legal position or condition, and you want to correct it, that would mean that there's something wrong with it, right? There's something wrong with your status and that you'll want to correct it. Status correction. Okay, so how is your status determined? Let's go here. A man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the rights to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes. A human being considered as capable of having rights and of being charged with duties, while a thing is the object over which rights may be exercised. Let's read that one more time, a little slower. What is person? A man considered according to the rank he holds in society, and that could be he or she, with all the rights to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes. A human being considered as capable of having rights and of being charged with duties, while a thing is the object over which rights may be exercised. I want to further expound on that by going to Black's Law, 2nd edition. And where am I getting that from? You can go online, try to find it. I have a extensive file on law dictionaries. Extensive, okay? And I happen to have, I'm sorry, just pass it. Black's Law, 2nd edition, which is behind this here. So Black's Law, 2nd edition, and we're going to go into person. A man considered according to the rank he holds in society, with all the rights to which the place he holds entitles him, and the duties which it imposes. A human being considered as capable of having rights and of being charged with duties, while a thing is the object over which rights may be exercised. Okay, so just read to you person, the definition, and that's in Black's Law 2nd edition. Let's jump back, because Black's Law 2nd edition, let me show you the date of when this, because dates matter. Let me show you the date of when this law book was produced. This is the second edition, 1910. It was published. We're going to go back to 1851. Burrell, A New Law Dictionary, Volume 2. And let's read person. A human being considered as the subject of rights, as distinguished from a thing. Persona. In civil and Old English law, a person. Persona es homo cum statu quodam consideratus. A person is a human being considered with reference to a certain status, condition, or quality. Persona, juris civilis, man is a term of nature. Person, a term of law. Every person is a man, human being, but not vice versa. Did you catch that? Is this a different definition or still the same thing? Persona, I can't read that, it's too small. A personal connection. And this is in brackets, we're not going to read that. A personal connection is equivalent to one's own interests. Nearest of blood is as good as consideration as one's own interests. We don't need that. Let's read persona again. This is page 794, and this is page 795. So as I read across here, it comes down here. All right, let's not get confused in that. Persona. In the civil and Old English law, a person. Persona es homo cum lata, and we should look that up and see what it says. A person is a human being considered with reference to a certain status, condition, or quality. It's referencing this here. Persona, juris civilis, man is a term of nature. Person, a term of law. Every person is a man, human being, but not vice versa. So omnis persona est homo. Let's find that real fast. Omnis persona. This is Black's Law, second edition. Sorry. Every person is a man, but not every man a person. Okay. Moving right along. I'm just going to jump straight into it and show you the birth certificate. This is an authenticated birth certificate, which happens to be mine. And let's look at some interesting details on here. This is my given name and my family name. If you notice, nothing is in all caps. Not even my parents' names. According to we're looking for Capitis Diminutio. What is Capitis Diminutio? In Roman law, a diminution or abridgment of personality. Tills was a loss of curtailment of a man's status or aggregate of legal attributes and qualifications, following upon certain changes in his civil condition. It was three kinds, enumerated as follows: capitis diminutio maxima, in other words, all caps, the highest or most comprehensive loss of status. This occurred when a man's condition was changed from one of freedom to one of bondage, when he became a slave. It swept away with it all rights of citizenship and all family rights. Capitis diminutio media, that's upper and lower, a lesser or medium loss of status. This occurred where a man lost his rights of citizenship, but without losing his liberty. It carried away also the family rights. Capitis diminutio minima, all lower caps, tiled, lowest or least comprehensive degree of loss of status. This occurred when a man's family relations alone were changed. It happened upon the arrogation of a person who had been his own master, or upon the emancipation of one who had been under the patria potestas. It left the rights of liberty and citizenship unaltered. Now, let's go back here to the lowest comprehensive degree of loss of status. This occurred where a man's family relations alone were changed. It happened upon the aggregation of a person who had been his own master, or upon the emancipation of one who had been under patria potestas. What is patria potestas? We go to Britannica.com for the definition. Patria potestas, power of a father. In Roman family law, the power that the male head of a family exercised over his children and his more remote descendants in the male line, whatever their age, as well as over those brought into the family by adoption. This power meant originally not only that he had control over the persons of his children, amounting even to a right to inflict capital punishment, but that he alone had any rights in private law. He alone. Thus, acquisitions of a child became the property of the father. The father might allow a child certain property to treat as his own, but in the eye of the law, it continued to belong to the father. Patria potestas ceased normally only with the death of the father, but the father might voluntarily free the child by emancipation, and the daughter ceased to be under the father's potestas if upon her marriage she came under her husband's manus, a corresponding power of husband over wife. By classical times, the father's power of life and death had shrunk to that of light punishment, and sons could keep as their own what they earned as soldiers, peculium castrinus. By Justinian's day, the rules of the peculium castrati were extended to many sorts of professional earnings, and in other acquisitions such as property inherited from the mother, the father's rights were reduced to a life interest. Okay? Follow these terms. When you read in these definitions and they give you additional wording or additional definitions, follow the trail. Okay? So what have we discovered so far? Parents' patria ends normally on the death of the father. So I'm going through this in my term, how it applies to me, because we're working on status correction. I'm going to apply it to my position. I left home before the age of 16 to 17, and being on your own and not having an authenticated birth certificate, not doing certain things, I was still under the age of majority. I was not legally a man yet. When I turned 21, I then had a child of my own. And according to the Lord, as we read it here, the laws, and a lot of this stuff is still in effect unless it's changed, myself and my children would have fell under my father's possession and property. My father passed in 2000, which means his ownership of the things that I would own was diminished or gone out the window. Now, because I've reached the age of 18, but I have not yet reached the age of majority, I technically have not reached the age of majority until I authenticated my birth certificate and I took ownership of that person. So now this gets a little confusing to do the back and forth and understanding how things play out. However, if we go back to status, not status correction, let's go back to status. The status of a person and his legal position or condition. Thus, when we say the status of a woman after the decree, and let's not read it all, but read it for yourself. But I'm going to make the point like this. Let's go back here and try to make the point. My parents were married at my birth. And as it's listed here, first of all, it's in CAPITIS DIMINUTio. Let's find it real fast. CAPITIS media. CAPITIS DIMINUTio media is what I would technically fall under because it's upper and lower caps. CAPITIS DIMINUTio media. So my parents were married, but if you see how it's listed here, they listed my mother's maiden name, which in essence, according to this documentation, it may look like they were not married and I was a bastard. Not a bastard. Bastard. Let's go into bastard. Wedlock is a state of being married. Let's go into illegitimate child, which I think is here. Nope, that goes to status. Let's just pull it up. Illegitimate child. That which is contrary to law. It is usually applied to bastards or children born out of lawful wedlock. The Louisiana Code divided illegitimate children into two classes. Those born from two persons who, at the moment when such children were conceived, could have lawfully intermarried, and those who are born from persons to whose marriages together existed at the time some legal impediment. Both classes, however, could be acknowledged and take by devise. Illegitimate child. I want to show you. Do your status need to be corrected? And if so, what in the hell are you actually correcting? Let's go to the document. Let's start here. This is an authenticated birth certificate. And when you go to the actual registration, this was a registration of an event, a birth. And if you notice, it's not in all caps. So did they in fact make a corporation out of this registration? Very likely, although it's not on the original registration. So does this have to be corrected? What could be wrong with this document that it needs to be corrected on the face? The only thing that stands out would be the mother's full maiden name, because the mother was, my mother was married at this time in this date. So she should not have been using her maiden name. She should have been using her married name. So to a degree, what they've done was they made a bunch of bastards out of these registrations. What is a bastard? Illegitimate. What is illegitimate? That which is contrary to law. It's against the law. It is usually applied to bastards or children born out of lawful wedlock. The Louisiana Code divided illegitimate children into two classes: those born from two persons who, at the moment when such children were conceived, could have lawfully intermarried, and those who were born from persons to whose marriages there existed at the time some legal impediment. Both classes, however, could be acknowledged in take by devise. Now, let me show you something that I came across in my studies. This is my collection of law dictionaries. My collection of law dictionaries. And I said, let me start at the earliest possible date and look up certain definitions. And this is what I did. So let's go into 1708, page 55. This is, let's see if it comes up. Come on. Well, this is the 1708 Cole A Law Dictionary, page 55. And let's make this bigger so we can attempt to read what is on this page. Excuse me. And let's move it back. Bastard. Hope you can read that. From the British bastard. That is nothing or spurious. From the British bastard. That is nothing or spurious. Is one that is one of any woman not married, so that his father is not known by order of law, and therefore is called filius populi, the child of the people. The learned Spellman very rationally derives the opprobrious name of bastard from the Norman bas, Saxon Stuart, rife of original, as a person of a bare and vile abstract. A baif, maybe a baif and vile abstract. Okay, we need to read some more of this because there's more details in there. As a person, see, that could be an F or S, but that's the same person, of baif or base and vile extract, the like termination, and femps remain a piece, a fellow of a new and late rife, such cannot inherit land as heir to his father, nor can any but the heir of his body take land in his heir. If a child be begotten by him that marries the mother after the child's birth, yet it is the judgment of law, a bastard. Let's move down. If a man take a wife who is great with child by another who is not her husband, yet the child, though born but one day after the marriage, shall be heir to the husband. So if one marry a woman and never bed her, but die before night, and she have a child before or child after, yet it seems he shall be accounted his child. If a man or a woman marry a second wife or husband, the first living, and by that second have issue, such issue is a bastard. If a woman elope with a stranger and have the child by him, yet if she husband the infraquator, he is legitimate and shall inherit. Okay, I think although confusing, we kind of got what it's trying to say. So Filius populi. Let's go there real fast. Let's see what that has to say. Not here. Filius populi, the son of the people, a bastard. The related terms are bastardized, to declare one a bastard as a court does, to give evidence to prove one. Nihilus filius, the son of no one, a bastard. A bastard is considered nihilus filius. Nihilus filius, the son of nobody, bastard, bastard igni. By the old English law, when a man had, and there's more to it, but I want to go to legitimation. And let's read this real fast. Legitimation, the making legitimate or lawful that which was not originally. So, especially the act of legalizing the status of a bastard. Legitimation per subsequent matrimonium, the legitimation of a bastard by the subsequent marriage of his parents. Meaning, if a child was born out of wedlock and the parents subsequently marry, that child then becomes legitimate. Got that? Okay. And these are terms you can look up. This is the dictionary, thelaw.com, legitimation. Go through these yourself and get familiar with these if you so choose. If you so choose. So I went there to say that we were in 1700 Commonwealth Dictionary, Cole Dictionary. Let's go to 1803. And in 1803, we're going to, not personal, personalities. Where were we in this one? Perjury, person? I think we were in person. Oh, I'm sorry. In 1803, they did not have the definition of person. So we went to the 1851, which had person, yep, and persona. Okay, so where are we? What's going on? What's the deal? I was not born out of wedlock. My parents were married. So there is very little that needs to be corrected here, because all I would need to do is attach my parents' marriage license to this, because the dates matter. On the date of their marriage was such and such so. The date of my birth was such and so days after. I'm legitimate. I'm lawful. I'm legal. There's really nothing that needs to be corrected here. Okay? So does a status correction apply in my case? What are we correcting? A man according to his place in society. And because I'm running low on space, I'm going to have to end this video and come back to it. But this is going to be multi-faceted. We really have to dig into this thing to see what we're doing and how we're doing it. So, to be continued. Family, what are you correcting? What are you correcting? Does it need to be corrected? What is wrong that you feel it needs to be corrected? Are you correcting the status because someone is telling you that you need to correct your status? Or can they articulate to you exactly why your status is wrong and it needs to be corrected, other than to tell you that you are a minor, you are this and you are that. Your next question should be, prove it. How do you know my status is wrong, that it needs to be corrected? There are a lot of processes going on. There are a lot of people paying a lot of money. And how do you prove that your status is indeed corrected? And if these bases are not covered, then again, is it really corrected? That's just like, nothing against the secured party process. But if your personal credit score is 482, and granted, you no longer use that social, you're now using an EIN, or you're using a 98. A 98 is an EIN. What is the status? What is the score for that number that you are now using? Are you using a CPN? What is the score on that? My opinion, my perception is to get that credit score, that individual credit score, that CPN, that EIN, or that social, to a certain level, 750 or better, and then freeze it or don't use it. So now that you've established a certain amount of credit, a certain level of credit, how can you call yourself a secured party with this credit score 482? Makes sense? I mean, some of this has to make sense. The pieces just have to go together. They just have to. So I think I showed you some things that you need to consider. And again, you go by the original document. And what I mean by the original document is the original birth certificate. This is the epicenter for everything. This is where it all starts. Your social security number, if you have one, was gained after this. It was, applied for after this. You would not have had a social before you had a birth certificate. All right. So it all begins here, and the facts need to really be corrected here. Were your parents born out of, were you born out of wedlock as a result of your parents not being married? Were you, what does your birth, now see, my parents were married. Is that the reason why mine is not in all caps?